As a home barista, you haven't got as much time to practice and develop the muscle memory to pour latte art like somebody who works in a cafe making dozens of coffees a day. But my latte art just had a breakthrough, and if you watch this video and apply it to your pours, I promise you'll see results. Last month I went to the Melbourne International Coffee Expo and competed against Junnie, who's an absolute master, and later that week she helped me figure out a lot of the things that were wrong with my technique, and it seriously changed everything in under an hour. Here are some of the pours she knocked out at the start of our training like it was nothing. Before I break down Junnie's tips and some from my other latte artist friends, you've got to get your espresso right to do latte art properly. I usually pull a shorter shot to make the viscosity a little bit higher, and that makes a nicer contrast like this. But if you're struggling to dial in your espresso, my book, The Brew Ledger, will really help to simplify it. I'll leave a link in the description for you. The first tip Junnie gave me is that having the right amount of milk in the jug is insanely important, more than you would think. That old advice about pouring to a centimetre or so below the spout is just nowhere near accurate enough if you're doing anything more advanced than a heart, a tulip, or a rosetta. Let me take this and show you. This is pouring to just below the spout. Now I'm going to pour to just below the spout again. You see the difference? It's 20 grams, and you might not think that that's very much, but that's an extra 10% of milk for this pour, or 20 grams too little depending on your perspective. So when you're pouring specific pours, you should probably weigh your milk. Like for this rabbit I used 210 mils, and for the wolf here I used 220 mils. And with both of them, I poured a little bit out after steaming, but before pouring to make sure that this was the correct amount. Do you always weigh the milk?
If the complicated patterns, yes.
The reason why this is so important is because when you're pouring, it comes out a lot heavier when there's more milk in the jug. So when you go and pour your tulip and you've got way too much milk, you're not going to get enough foam, and it's going to look like this. When I was practicing this wolf pour by Ashley, I messaged Emily Bryant to get some tips on why it was flaring out, and she said,
You just want whatever milk is enough that's left, where you literally have just a drop left in the end. No liquid, just foam.
So when you're mixing at the start of your pour, you have to figure out how quickly you should be mixing for the kind of pour that you're doing. If you're doing a hollow heart where you need heavier milk and less foam, mix super quickly. But if you're doing a free pour and you need less heavy milk and more dry foam, mix slowly, as this will give more of your milk to the cup and save more of your foam in the jug. By the way, I'd never tried this pour before the day I submitted it for the London Coffee Festival Throwdown with WPM, and while I didn't get selected, one of the best bits of advice I got was from Heidi Phillips-Smith from London School of Coffee. She said that you've got to practice many times in a row. You can't just do 1 or 2 coffees a day, pouring a tulip one time and a seahorse the next, and expect to improve. Pick one design that you want to master. Prep everything and do at least 6 or 8 pours of the same design in a row. Look at what you're doing wrong, diagnose it, and try a different way to pour next time. And the only way you can do this is by pouring one after the other and getting that muscle memory. Once you've got a design locked down so you can pour it confidently, you can move on to another design. I promise you'll see massive improvement really quickly. And I know it feels sucky to waste milk and coffee, but I practiced all morning with cheap supermarket coffee, and it only cost about £10 to get my wolf from this to this. That's the best one. Junnie even showed me a great way to practice this, and it's just by doing consistent rosettas. The first one's the hardest. You want to be able to pour a thin rosetta because it's much more useful for advanced pours, and it's easy to accidentally pour a wide rosetta as a base for many of the designs that you learned when starting out. I practiced doing 5 rosettas in a row, and it definitely made all the difference in going from those warpy ones that kind of spoil the design to a nice thin one that could be used for free pours. Going back to training day, I noticed how bubbly my pours looked compared to Junnie's, which still looked clean even 20 minutes later when we'd done a whole lot more practice. And that's about how well you incorporate your milk. A lot of people make this mistake. You're going to get much less incorporated bubbles when you steam like that, which will get inconsistent foam. So the best thing to do is get the air in early and fast, and when incorporating, just go a fraction below the surface, so you're just barely not inserting air, which will give you the best roll that'll pull all the milk down and get a consistent texture. Obviously, like I've talked about on many other videos, make sure you're angling your pitcher correctly too. And you can recover poorly foamed milk that got one of these at the start If your milk becomes too foamy, you can pull your wand a little more centered and get a more extreme roll, which will draw the milk down and get a whirlpool that disrupts those big bubbles you just pulled in. Make sure you react to this quickly though, because if you take too long, the proteins in the milk will be wrapping around those bubbles and locking them in. So after that point, it's pretty hard to do anything about it. Next is a lesson I've had to relearn multiple times, which is to slow down, especially when pouring rosettas. If you wiggle your jug too quickly, you don't get nice rosettas, you get whatever you want to call this. Instead, try taking it slow, stay calm, and just feel the movement of the milk inside the jug. Just roll it from side to side and let physics do the rest. And don't do what I've been caught doing a lot, which is resting your jug on the side of the cup. It forces the wrong angle and stops you from getting as close to the espresso as you need to that would give you the cleanest design. Next, you gotta hold the cup right. There are lots of ways to do this, and the only thing that really matters in how you choose to hold your cup is that it's easy to straighten out and easy to rotate without locking your arm into a weird position. I think I was doing this weird spider claw-like thing with my hand on the bottom of the cup, and while that did let me rotate the cup one way, if I had to go in the other way, I got into this weird troglodyte position that makes it really hard to pour and often made me spill my coffee towards the end. So if you're spilling your lattes, take a look at how you're holding. The way I've been pouring since that training is to make a C shape with my hand and then angle the handle out to the side, so my pour is always with the handle at 3 o'clock. In fact, if I didn't get the handle in the right position, it's actually a disqualification in a lot of latte art competitions, so really important to get this right. And before I forget, I never really understood what this was for before the training. I've been calling this the bubble drop. I don't know what the real name is, but it disrupts the espresso and milk's surface tension so you can pour without the milk being pulled around. So if you're pouring and you don't know why the milk is spreading everywhere, try doing a bubble drop and then pulling from where you dropped a little further away from the surface. That should work. Make sure you follow all the people I mentioned, Junnie, Heidi Phillips-Smith, and Emily Bryant, and you can buy my book, The Brew Ledger, from the link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching, you wonderfully overcaffeinated people, and I'll see you on the next one.